You're still watching Dateline Abuja. Well, next we'll bring you updates from the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, NILDS. In a summit powered by NILDS, bolstered by the United Women and German Corporation, held recently at the Rockview Hotel Wuse to Abuja, it was a convergence of industry experts on Nigeria's readiness for gender equality discourse. Professor Adewale Aderemi, representing News Director General, ignited enthusiasm for gender parity as a catalyst for growth.
In a groundbreaking two-day dialogue summit put together by the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, NILDS, with support from UN Women and German Cooperation recently held in Abuja, with the theme Enhancing Gender-Responsive Operations and the Roles of Legislators in Women, Peace and Security in Nigeria, esteemed scholars and military leaders addressed the pressing concern, the marginalization of women in critical sectors, hindering the nation's progress, serving as a platform to underscore women's crucial role in fostering peace, democracy, and development. Representing the Director General of NILDS, Professor Adewale Aderemi, in his opening remarks, emphasized women's indispensable contribution to conflict prevention and resolution. Professor Adewale underscored the need for full gender parity, advocating for quotas to accelerate women's inclusion across various sectors, including election monitoring, security, and justice system reforms.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is a truism that gender equity offers a path to sustainable peace and conflict prevention and resolution. Women and girls are affected differently by conflict and violence and the long-term social and economic impacts of this cascading crisis. Rising numbers of women and girls are suffering from violence in the home front, with many of them out of school and with no prospect of training, a job, or financial independence. According to analysis by the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, over 60,000 Nigerian lives have been lost to conflict and insecurity in the past 10 years, and several millions have been internally displaced. Most of these people are women and children. Therefore, efforts to address the impact of conflict and insecurity and resolve them must take these gender dimensions into consideration. The gender dimensions of conflict and insecurity are also evidenced globally. It is indeed worrisome that around the world, the recent shift away from inclusive politics shows once again that dictatorships and authoritarianism are mutually reinforcing and antithetical to stable and prosperous societies. Today's political deadlocks and entrenched conflict are just the latest examples of how enduring power imbalances and patriarchy are continuing to fail us. In Mali, for example, women are becoming poorer and more marginalized as the country goes through successive military coups, and extremists pose even greater threats. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has forced millions of women and children to flee their country, putting them at risk of trafficking and exploitation of all kinds.
Echoing these sentiments, CO Obiabaka, who represented Air Marshal Hassan Bala Abubakar in a goodwill message, emphasized the imperative of understanding how social norms and power structures impact gender dynamics in security and peace-building efforts. He lauded NILDS for its pivotal role in fostering dialogue on such crucial issues and urged concerted efforts to mitigate barriers hindering women's participation.
We cannot talk about national development without understanding how social norms and power structures impact on genders. Our focus, therefore, must be towards mitigating such factors that challenge the peculiarities of every individual in living a good life and attaining desired goals. The volatility of our current security environment, especially as it concerns this country, further poses dangers to gender preservation. This is why all peacemaking or peace-building efforts must be guided by gender considerations and inclusiveness. Thus, the Nigerian Airforce remains committed to enhancing gender-responsive security operations and also looks forward to emerging legislations to curb gender discrimination. The Nigerian Air Force will continue to support the initiatives of this great institute. And I want to thank all our distinguished participants for being here this morning as we look forward to fruitful deliberations.
The keynote address delivered by University Don Istifanus Zabadi resounded with urgency as he pinpointed the marginalization of women as a significant impediment to Nigeria's progress. Professor Zabadi passionately argued that inclusive governance encompassing women in decision-making roles across all sectors is essential for achieving sustainable development and effectively addressing the nation's challenges. Highlighting the urgency of the matter, Professor Zabadi stressed the need for gender-responsive security operations, citing the integration of women as a force multiplier in ensuring inclusivity and legitimacy. Despite Nigeria's efforts to align with UNSCR 1325 on women, peace and security, Professor Zabadi lamented the slow progress, calling for transformative action to dismantle the male-dominated order obstructing women's advancement. The event's climax was a riveting panel discussion where participants delved into actionable strategies to mainstream women's voices in both the public and private spheres, from addressing the challenges hindering women's peace and security agendas to advocating for tangible results through intense dialogue. The discourse was brimming with urgency and determination.
The world remains a very dangerous place owing to the violent conflicts and wars that are currently going on in many parts. These wars and violent conflicts have and continue to kill millions of people and destroy livelihoods, property, and public infrastructure. The wars in Ukraine, Gaza, and the violent conflicts in Syria, Sudan, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, you can go on and on, Central African Republic, and so on, continue to claim lives, and the majority of the victims are women and children. Furthermore, women and girls are victims of conflict-related sexual and gender-based violence, such as rape and sex slavery, whether they are part of the security forces or not. This situation will continue because women, although a significant part of the populations in all countries, are excluded from the running of the affairs in the institutions of states and society as a whole. This includes security operations. And we make the point here that nations who want to be politically and socially stable and have peace, democracy, and development must involve women in the scheme of things. This must be at all levels, especially with regards to decision making and the implementations of these decisions.
As the event drew to a close, it left an indelible mark, igniting an emotional call to action to recognize that women's empowerment is a moral imperative and a catalyst for national development, especially in Nigeria, a nation grappling with myriad challenges. The path to progress becomes more apparent with the inclusion and empowerment of its women, a truth echoed fervently within the hall on this historic occasion.